And speaking of budget, I want to thank the sponsors of this evening's debate first. The Alberta Community and Cooperative Association is the representative voice of over 700 cooperatives in Alberta, and Credit Unions of Alberta represents 14 credit unions with almost 200 branches located in communities large and small across Alberta. Supporting communities they operate in is a priority for credit unions, and they give where they live with annual charitable donations, fundraising initiatives, and sponsorships that support local, not-for-profits, and small businesses, and $84 million back to their members in 2021 through profit share programs.
Okay. Mr. Taves, credit unions are a major part of the financial industry in Alberta, especially in rural communities, focusing on small businesses and agriculture. In many communities, they're the only bank in town. The Credit Union Act is thought by many in the industry to be out of date and tying the hands of Alberta credit unions, putting them at a disadvantage with big federally backed Eastern banks. As finance minister, you oversaw the credit union sector in Alberta, and in your campaign, you've talked about strengthening Alberta's hand against Eastern interests. What would a government under your leadership do to help Alberta-based credit unions compete and innovate against the federally backed Eastern banks?
Well, a couple of things. As finance minister, I brought in a lot of red tape reduction, regulatory modernization to the Credit Union Act. I worked to broaden the powers of the Credit Union Deposit Guarantee Corporation, and I've really moved that. It's called CUDGE in acronym. Moved CUDGE to really position it as a single financial regulator in the future in the province. I believe if we can have a single financial regulator, it will ultimately position the financial services sector for strength in Alberta and more broadly to compete right across the country. Look, regulatory reform in financial services is absolutely critical. The credit unions provide incredible service to Albertans right across this province. Their powers need to be broadened, but they also need to be unfettered with additional red tape reduction, regulatory modernization as we move forward.
Ms. Smith, what would a government under your leadership do to help strengthen Alberta credit unions vis-a-vis most of the Eastern-based central banks, or federally backed Eastern banks?
I think everybody should get an account at a credit union, because if the federal government comes through with Emergencies Act again and wants to start seizing and freezing bank accounts, we can say, move your money to the credit unions, and because they are under our regulatory jurisdiction, we will not enforce that. I wish we had done that the first time. But I can tell you, I have talked to heads of credit unions, and that money is flowing in to credit unions. The federal government has done a lot to reduce the confidence that we have in the banking system. And I think that was part of the reason why we had the reversal in the policy as quickly as we did. So I think that the credit unions are going to play a very important role in future. I'm looking at ways in which we can use the credit union and maybe have our own insurance on CMHC type of insurance, so that as we get into this period of higher interest rates, we can make sure that those original homeowners don't end up finding themselves in a position where they're upside down on a mortgage. That is going to be the next big crisis that we have to face, is making sure that we have affordable housing.
Thank you. Mr. Jean, you seem to disagree.
I do disagree. I spent 10 years doing foreclosure law for banks. The credit unions have to obey Revenue Canada when they send a notice, and they don't need a judgment. They don't need a lawyer. They just send a notice, and they're going to take your money out of your account, no matter what you do. But listen, folks, the credit union's not the only great tool we have in Alberta to serve Albertans. We have the ATB that was set up in order to make the charter banks that were taking advantage of Albertans to be competitive. What we need to do is have the government force the ATB through a direction, ATB, to get back to business of basic lending, to get back to make sure that Albertans can buy homes at affordable interest rates, not competitive. They're not there to make money. They're there to serve Albertans. That means small business loans. That means student loans. That means farmers. All of these things should be in a situation where the ATB does not need to make a profit off of Albertans. We own it, just like we own the oil sands, just like we own the natural gas. We own it. We should not be paying a profit on it. We should make sure the ATB, the credit unions, serve Albertans with lots of cash so we can start being profitable again.
Thank you.
Thank you.